All righty, everyone. It looks like we are live here out on the broadcast of Career Alchemy. I am your host, Lori Swanson, the CEO of InspireTech and the founder of Career Alchemy Academy, a coaching community for women in tech who gather in support of each other and to create goals and go after their goals and reach their goals inside of their careers at the same time that they're managing their mind and their energy and truly becoming aligned with what brings them the most joy and through our work, which is our form of service. So I always love talking about Career Alchemy Academy, and I love talking about whatever our topic is. And today's topic is a good one. It's called This Is Me Waiting for You to Respond About My Career Request. That's the title. Like, this is me waiting for you to respond. Those are some great memes out there, right? Have you seen them? This is me waiting for you to respond to my text message. And when we're talking about careers, this is me waiting for you to respond to my email, waiting for you to respond to my resume, waiting for you to respond to some sort of career request, right? So I want to talk about that today, and I want to give you the four-step email. I guess I'll call it an email process, like follow-up process. So four-step follow-up process, because there's lots of parts to a career journey. And one of them is follow-up. So this will make sense in a second. And where it all came from was I was on a call with fellow entrepreneurs that I meet with, and like Career Alchemy Academy for Women in Tech, I have a community that I meet with of other women entrepreneurs. And like Career Alchemy Academy, I like to think it's so inspiring. It's so wonderful to go in and say, look, I'm having this challenge, and many people in the group have already faced that challenge, so they can give me their thoughts and their insights about how they, addressed it and what they did, their results and all of that. So it's just great to have a community like that. And it's actually what prompted me to start Career Alchemy Academy, because I've been in this group for years and I get so much value from it. And we've become, many of us, people come in and out, but many of us have been there for a long time. And you just get to know each other. You can challenge each other, like maybe your best friend wouldn't, or your spouse might not, in a loving, kind way of being like, hey, I'm calling BS on that, right? I know you, this sounds like a bit of an excuse versus some resistance versus, you actually going for something and doing something because I know you can, right? So that is how this whole this is me waiting for you to respond idea came to me. So I'm inside of this community, and we're talking about everyone's kind of like, oh, I'm having a really hard time with A, B, or C. But I would say very consistently, and this isn't just in the last call, but often it's about getting new sales. And so I'm a business owner, so it makes sense. You're like, of course, Lori needs to get new customers. But the fact of the matter is, your career journey is a sales journey every step of the way. Always has been, always will be. You will hear me talk about this. You have to get that sort of let go of the resistance to selling, just like a business owner does, right? You have to let go, because often people start businesses because they're really passionate about their product, and helping customers through using their product or service. And but then they're like, oh, and then there's like bills and payroll and accounting and sales. And I don't want to sell. I just want people to buy my product, and then I'll help them with it, right? Same is true. You don't want to have to ask people to give you more money or to interview you or to promote you. You just want to do your work, and they recognize that, and then all those things come. But it isn't how it works. You have to ask for them. And so in coaching, when I think about this sales journey, I kind of break it down into three things. Step one is what I call visibility. This is where you are, and this is an all the time activity in your career, but and there's so many different ways, and I'm not going to go into deep dive on visibility today. I'll talk about it a little. I've talked about it in past calls here, broadcasts. I've got it inside some blogs. And of course, it is one of the pillars inside of Career Alchemy Academy. We have three pillars, and the second pillar is called the path, and visibility is the first step on that path, right? And what I mean by visibility is it's this, basically, it's letting people know who you are, what you do, and why the work you do is valuable. And so it's really letting people know about you. If they don't know about you, if you're hiding behind the scenes, no surprise that you're not being tapped on the shoulder for opportunities, right? So visibility is very important. And then you have what I call the most sales focused part of your career journey is step two, which is alignment and agreement. And so I'm going to do a deeper dive into alignment and agreement, but it's essentially, through discovery, finding alignment or misalignment, and then getting agreement on what's next. And then finally, part three of the sales journey is delivery. And that is, doing the work you love, delivering 100% great results, and just being in the work that you love doing and in the role that you love doing, in a company you love doing it for, working on products and building, teams that support products and services that, you can get behind, right? So it's visibility, alignment and agreement, and then delivery. And my coaching clients, delivery is not the problem. Yeah, we might work on different things, especially if you've moved from individual contributor into a leadership role for the first time. There's always new skills, new up levels that need to happen, but doing the work is the easiest part. It's visibility where, it just feels uncomfortable. Visibility, taps right into our imposter syndrome. It requires us to raise our hand, to go to networking events, to maybe speak on panels. It's a sort of energy that it's kind of its own sort of energy that's required that can be very draining for many people. And so they will avoid visibility. Just let me put my head down and do my work, right? And I'll do, some people do some visibility, but I would always argue that there's so much more you could be doing that you're resisting because most people don't want to have to be that visible that regularly and consistently. So it's, it's really helping people. I mean, the real thing to remember about visibility is it's, as you're doing the visibility vehicles, these activities, you are helping people know and understand who you are, what you do, and why your work matters, and that, the value that you bring, right? And so you have to be doing that on a regular basis, or no one will think of you. No one will know about you. So that can be hard, but the hardest part, I would say, is part two, step two, whatever you want to call it, which is alignment and agreement, because that is so directly a sales function. When we talk about alignment and agreement, what we're talking about is that place in which you advocate or ask for what you want. The interview, the board seat, the meeting, the connection or introduction, the promotion, the raise, the contract, that glamour project again. These are the things that you want. And now and now your visibility vehicles have been paying off. People are aware of you. And now now that they know who you are, you've got to let them know what you want, right? Your visibility starts paying off and people are reaching out and introductions are being made and they're inviting you in and they're asking about what you're thinking about things. Um, and so you move into alignment and agreement. Alignment is the discovery part. So, and that's really, I think most of us, because it's very much like what you do when you're, especially in technology, when you're creating a new product, let's say, or a feature for a product, you have to do the discovery. You have to understand what is the user need, and then and how's that going to fit into our current product, and how long is it going to take? Like you're getting all this information, right? And that's the same thing you're doing here in alignment. You're asking a lot of questions so that you can discover if there is, what you're asking for, if there's alignment between you and the other person. That, hey, for example, job interviews, the perfect example. You have a job opening. Do I fit the job opening? Let's have a conversation. Let's get alignment that, yes, I do have the right background. And then we'll get agreement that you will move me forward in the interview process. That's just one really simple example. Alignment is getting the questions to determine if it does make sense, or what does make sense for the next step. And sometimes it's misalignment. And that's also, you get agreement, this is misaligned. And our next step is, shake hands and go on our merry way, right? But often there's going to be, hopefully there will be some sort of alignment that this person knows lots of people in the fintech industry, and you've understood that they know lots of people, and specifically they have a number of contacts with the CIOs or the VP of technology, and that would be a good conversation for you to have. And so we've now got an alignment. They know people. These are people you want to meet. So now we need to get agreement. Will they make these introductions, right? Will they help you out and make those introductions? Or, if you've got your own product and you need money, you need to get some capital. Maybe they're making introduction into angel investors and things like that, that person has a bunch of contacts within that community, and you would like them to make some introductions for you. So all of that hopefully explains you're getting alignment, just making sure that, what I'm looking for, you can help me with. Or if there's a misalignment, if what I'm looking for you can't help me with, we're okay with that and we move on. Time saved, no more wasted time. We've got a clear, definitive next step, which is, shaking hands. Or we have a clear, definitive next step, which could be reviewing the resume, or making the introduction, like I said, or creating the documentation with your help so that you can put through the raise so that can be approved, right? So we've got all these little agreements that are happening. But no matter what, almost always, you get the agreement and then you have to follow up. So maybe you're just following up with a resume, or maybe you're following up with a reference letter. Maybe you're following up with your speaker one sheet because you're looking to get on that panel. Maybe you're following up with a reference, someone they can talk to beyond a letter. So there might be different things that you're following up on. Maybe, if we're talking about inside of your organization and your boss is the person you're getting agreement on, you're going to follow up with a list of your projects, sort of like, you did it in your performance review, and now you're going to specifically try to advocate for this raise, and you're going to help your boss advocate for you on your behalf. And so you need to give them the right, information, empower them to do that for you. So there's lots of follow-up that needs to happen. And often follow-up, so you send over the documents or whatever they want, and then you crickets, right? And so then you have to follow up again. So I often say following up is not a one-time thing either. it can be twice or 3 times or 4 times. Ultimately, you follow up until you get a definitive yes or definitive no, like the action that we agreed upon has taken or it's not going to be taken. And if you don't have one or the other, then what you have is you making a lot of assumptions about why it's not happening. You're being ghosted, maybe, but that isn't good enough for me, right? Someone who's, actively pursuing sales and I don't want to make an assumption about what's going on with you and why you're not returning my call. I want you to tell me. And so the follow-up process, and I'll also talk about what happens when you're still not getting response. So there's also a way to do that. So what I wanted to get, because you want a decision, because you want to be able to move on, because otherwise it's just an energy suck. So I want to talk about the 4 steps to an email sales follow-up process. So you've had the meeting somehow, virtual or in person. There's been a level of alignment and agreement about next steps that's happening. And now you're sending this follow-up email that should be a clear email stating either why you're reaching out or a summary of the alignment and agreement conversation and what you're looking for, what we agreed on, right? And you can use AI to tighten up that message, but it's just a simple, hey, really great having lunch with you the other day. I appreciate your willingness to take my resume and put it in front of, Vivian, who's the CISO there at your organization. And, I've been reaching out to her, but she hasn't, she's busy, hasn't replied. So I'm really grateful for this. I've attached my resume and I plan to follow up, per our conversation, you were going to get it to her by Friday. So I'm going to plan to follow up with her on Monday or Tuesday. So really clear, email that's summarizing what was agreed upon and then gives a little bit of, so I'm assuming you're going to do what you said you were going to do. And when you, in this time, it's good to give a deadline, right? In this time frame, and then I will follow up then. Okay. So that's what I call day 1, the ask, reminding them of the agreement and then clearly the ask again. I always say in that, and I talk about that, sort of getting implied permission is that call to action at the end that once you do this, I will do that. You said you'd get to her by Friday with that, and I'm going to go ahead and follow up on Monday or Tuesday. So I always think you want to keep the ball in your control. Like just like any basketball game, the more minutes you're holding the ball, the better chance you have of winning the game. And so we want to keep the ball in our court. And an implied call to action at the end, this sort of implied permission is a way to keep the ball back. Plus, it's a motivator. They're like, ooh, geez, I better do this because they said they're going to follow up with me or with that person by this time. Okay, so then in the email process, that's day 1. You've done the follow-up right after the lunch or the next day, whatever it is, very quickly after alignment and agreement has been set. Then, let's say, let's use the example of you following up with them. So you're waiting to hear back from them. They haven't replied back. And now you're in 3 days later. I usually say day 4, you'll do another follow-up with them. Just making sure that I know how busy things could. I call it the bump because you're just going to forward your last message in the email chain. You'll just forward that so they can go back and look at what was said. And you just say, I know how busy things can get. I'm just bumping this message back to the top of your inbox. Let me know how you'd like to proceed. I'm planning to follow, and again, that implied permission, I'd always throw that in there. I'm planning to follow up with you on Friday unless I've heard from you, sort of thing. Then you wait another 3 to 5 or so days and you do something I call the humor. So at this point, and I did this quite a bit when I was a recruiter, because as a recruiter, you're calling companies all the time. They've posted a job and you just want them to work with you, right? You want them to choose you as their partner in recruiting. So as an external recruiter, so you can go out and find the people for them to fill the job. So I do the initial thought, hey, the first email, hey, I saw you have this posting, this is what I do. I've attached a couple of reference letters. I'd love to jump on a call to see how we might be able to help you fill this more quickly. Crickets. So day 4, I'm bumping this message up. Maybe you attach something else. Maybe it's specific about the market right now for data engineers or something that would be pertinent to them. And you just bump up your message. Now you're on the 3rd email follow-up, which is a few days after the second one. And in this one, I think it's nice to put in a little bit of humor. And I will say, as a recruiter, I would say something. Sometimes I would just send a message and say, your worst nightmare here again in your inbox. And that might be in the subject line, because that's catchy, right? It isn't, do you want to talk about your job opening? Instead, it's like, your worst nightmare has arrived. And then I will just joke and say, here I am again, your worst nightmare, wanting to talk to you about filling your jobs, um, coming to you with more candidates to solve your hiring problem. Please get back to me so we can, jump on a call, or please let me know when you're available to talk. So doing that, and I will follow up if I haven't heard anything. Implied permission. There's also, if you go to inspiretech.com and you look under career resources and go to my blog, to this particular blog, the one that says, this is me waiting, I have a really cute video that you could attach. And again, always cognizant of the relationship of the person. Would they receive some humor, or maybe a little bit of humor, but not a lot? But I put in there a link to Mr. Bean, if you know who he is. And it's just him kind of standing in a cornfield, waiting. And so it's kind of funny. And you could put in the subject line, this is me waiting, ... And then there's this video, and then you could follow up with your email. But humor will often be the thing. They'll be just like, oh my God, I have to reply to them, because they're not going to stop, because look at what they're doing now. They're sending me Mr. Bean videos. Finally, 2 weeks later, somewhere in the 10 to 14 day range, and we're talking about this 4-step email process. Step 4 is what I call closing the energetic loop. So the energetic close. Again, just because we haven't heard anything doesn't mean it's a no. It could be not now, not yet. It could be, there could be so many things happening. This person could have had a sudden illness, or, an illness in their family. There could be some shifting priorities inside the organization, and this role has been placed on just temporary hold. It's not out in the world hold, but it's just underneath the priority of another role that they have to complete the interviewing process on. We don't know that, and they're not necessarily going to share it with us. I used to do internal recruiting for a company, and they wouldn't even let me know sometimes who's going out searching for people that they temporarily don't need candidates for this role because of whatever reasons, right? So it isn't you. It just happens. And so there could be lots of different reasons, an internal fire, that they have to put out especially in technology, that'll happen. There's 100 possibilities. So it isn't no. It isn't no. It's just not now, not yet, I'll get to it. There's all of that's what's really happening. We don't have a no. So we want to close the loop without burning a bridge. So sending an email that says something like, it seems other priorities may be taking your attention. I'm going to plan to follow up again in 3 weeks, 4 weeks. You pick it. You, again, sensing what you do already know. Like as a recruiter, I know that sometimes they're not calling me back because they're trying to fill that job on their own. They've just posted it. They're trying to fill it on their own. So not pay a fee, right? So it might be 2, 3, 4 weeks before they realize that either A, they can't find somebody, or B, they made an offer and that person turned them down. And now it's become a real priority for them. And then they're calling me back. So that could be another, not a no. It's just like, hey, we got someone in the pipe that we're trying to, make an offer to. And then in their minds, they're thinking, if that person turns us down, I'm calling Lori. I'm going to work with her. So you want to close the loop without burning the bridge. So something like, it seems other priorities, maybe taking your attention. I'm going to plan to follow up again in X many weeks or days or whatever the timing feels right for you. If I don't hear from you sooner, that's always one of my favorite things. Again, that's a little bit of implied or a lot of implied permission, but it's really saying, if I don't hear from you sooner, and I will tell you often, they'll be like, this person's relentless, and they're not feeling bad. They don't feel bad about you. They just have a sense that you're going to keep coming back to them, and they want to also close the loop, however that is. Meaning they want to schedule the call, they want to tell you to follow up in January, they want to tell you that they're never going to work with you. They're just going to want to get that off their plate at some point. And often it happens in 3 or 4 that we go, it is a no or it is a yes. But we're no longer in limbo land, because that is an energy drain like nothing else. And we want out of limbo land. We want a clear yes or no. And if we can't give that, we do that energetic close of the loop where we give them more space. But we are also letting them know this isn't done because you have not said no, right? So that's how I, as a recruiter, that was kind of my process that worked really, really well for me. And, helped keep me out of limbo land, because that is not a fun place to be. And, we can hope for a yes always. We want to get a yes, right? But if we don't have a yes, then we want to know. Anything's better than crickets, or we don't know. Anything's better than that. So you're always going for a clear yes or no. Don't be afraid of the no. I've talked about that in past blogs. Like, go for the no's. That shifts your energy. But no surprises, no wondering, no waiting. Just go for the yes. If you don't get the yes, get the no. And then you can move on and keep finding new ways to advance your career. You can get the agreement is a no, or the agreement is a yes, and you then keep moving that one forward. If it's a no, you can go and shift your energy into different directions. So a yes is great. A no is useful, but it's that waiting that stalls your momentum, and it's your commitment to follow up and getting the yes or the no that brings that momentum and energy back. So I hope that was helpful. I think the main thing to really get out of what I was talking about today is we're always working on visibility. We're working on alignment and getting alignment and agreement for different things throughout our career. And we're also paying attention to how we deliver inside of our career, and really making that like top notch. And so all of these areas can use coaching, right? So I'd love to be that coach for you. And if you've been thinking about it, reach out to me, DM me, put a message in the comments, email me, Lori@InspireTech, and let's jump on a call and we'll see if we have alignment. If I'm your coach and you agree I'm your coach, then we will move forward and we'll begin delivering on your career dreams. How does that sound? I'll talk to all of you soon. Thank you so much for tuning in or listening to the recording. It's always my pleasure and joy to be here. Peace. And happy Thanksgiving to all of you in the United States that will be celebrating Thanksgiving and being grateful for every little